Welcome to Pitcher Nail Down. I'm Jason Gilbo. With me is Justin Elick, breaking down pitching options for tonight's slate. Finally, a slate with actually some recognizable names for us to talk about on a Monday. But also interesting because we have Coors here, and we have easily one of the worst pitchers that's pitching this season in Coors.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I mean, usually most slates, especially on Monday, you kind of dumpster dive a lot of weeks. This week, you only have to do that if you're trying to stack Coors, and unfortunately, down in the bargain bin, there's nobody I'm really excited about, but I mean, we can get to them in a couple minutes. But I mean, up top, you got maybe the two best pitchers in all of baseball, aside from Chris Sale. I guess I'll skip Kershaw since he's still hurt. But I mean, Scherzer coming back from an injury, Kluber. Neither matchup is one that you just really love. But I mean, Kluber in particular has been so matchup proof and just went complete game against these guys with 11 strikeouts, 2 or 3 weeks ago, whenever that was. So, I mean, I think for me, despite the Vegas data and, Scherzer being a big favorite, but Kluber being basically in a pick up against Severino, I still like Kluber more in this spot just because I think he does have that better floor. And, straight off an injury, I'm not trying to pay $14,000 for Max Scherzer in cash games tonight.
No, I'm not either. I think Scherzer's a guy I just probably won't have any exposure to just because, one, as you mentioned, coming off the injury, and also just the fact that, he's 14-1. And like you said, I mean, there's not a ton that's down low that you really feel comfortable taking shots on. Like GPPs, there'll be a couple of guys that I work with, but cash games, I mean, I think you take the discount with Kluber, and I like the matchup, actually. I just think the Yankees, I mean, they've been pretty subpar, middle of the road over the last 30 days. Their strikeout rate is below average against right-handed pitching, and there's a ton of strikeouts in this lineup. I mean, Aaron Judge is going to K 4 times. We know that.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I don't know, and it still scares me, even with the best pitcher, playing anybody against Giancarlo Stanton right now, especially because he's getting close to that record of 61, so he's probably gonna get it.
Dude, I hope so.
All this stupid Twitter debate about it being 73. Let's stop with that.
Dude, Stan's gonna mash.
Stanton might get 73 if he keeps up the pace he's been on the last 3 weeks. Maybe he will.
Need 23 home runs.
He might. If anyone could do it. I mean, the Rockies won, 24 games in a row that one time? That team wasn't even good. I'm just talking about things that probably won't happen. But imagine if he did do that and get 73.
Yeah, Hoskins is going to catch him here soon.
Yeah, Hoskins is at 64? He already got 61 in August alone. But either way, I mean, yeah, I'm with you. I don't mind Scherzer. More so, I mean, on FanDuel, I think you certainly can play him. On DraftKings, I'm not really excited about him at that price, but I definitely still prefer Kluber.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, Kluber, highest swinging strike rate on the slate, strikeout rate's right around Scherzer's, and the ground ball rate's a lot better. Obviously, the ballpark's not great, but he does a decent job of keeping the ball on the ground combined with his strikeout rate.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're not making contact, you're not hitting home runs in that, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So, outside of that, I mean, we get to some other guys here, kind of that tier 2 now. We'll start with Jeff Samardzija. This has been a guy who, God, I've been playing the last few starts because he's been really good matchups, and he's just been kind of a letdown. I don't know if he's just done for the year, doesn't even care anymore because Giants have been ruled out since May, or what.
He has almost the exact same stat line over his last 4 games, really. 6 innings or 6 1/3 in each of them. 1 earned in 1, but 3, 3, 3, and 4. The other ones right around 4 to 6 strikeouts, a couple walks. I mean, he seems like for SP2, I think it's Kluber and Samardzija is the way you go with that because just the matchup alone, I mean, his strikeout rate's not even 18% over the last month, but Padres, as we know, they're still going to strike anyone. I mean, wasn't it Adam Conley that had 11 strikeouts against these guys? Or was that – no, was that the Mets game?
I think it was the Mets game.
The Mets. Someone had 10 or 11 strikeouts against the Padres in the past couple weeks, and it was, just not a good pitcher at all. I'll have to remember who it was. But either way, regardless of that, this team is going to give you, if you're a decent pitcher, a strikeout floor of 5 or 6 here. So I really like it. It's kind of strange to see that high run total because I know he hasn't been particularly great, but he hasn't been getting hit that hard either. So, for me, I feel like that run total for San Diego should be lower, but maybe I'm just more excited about this matchup than I should be.
Yeah, I'm kind of in between, and I think going back, I mean, he had back-to-back starts against San Diego in July and gave up 12 earned runs over the two, and he did have the 8 strikeouts on the road, but that was the start. He gave up 7. I don't know if Vegas is taking that into consideration. They're just looking and just think maybe he's going to go out there and throw 6 innings and allow 3 to 4 earned runs because San Diego hasn't really been all that bad. I mean, they've been kind of a middle of the road offense over the last 30 days where we've seen them actually get to some pitchers here. I mean, Lance Lynn was one that was off the top of my head. Everyone kind of played him that night, myself included. So, I mean, they've kind of actually beat up on chalk pitchers, it seems like, more often than not of late.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, I want to see that upside there, but maybe it isn't there tonight. Maybe it's just Samardzij's just that quality start guy that maybe he'll go out and get you the six innings, 3 earned runs, 5-6 Ks. And I mean, at that price as a secondary pitcher, I mean, I think you're fine with that. But I don't know that he has a ton of upside in this one, though, because like you said, he just isn't striking out a ton of guys. And his walk rate's a little higher. I mean, that was the huge draw with him is he didn't walk anybody. And it's not a concern now, but it is creeping up a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not terribly worried. Like, I'll still have my shares. I'm just, I'm not going to be jumping all aboard. If this was maybe 2 months ago, I'd be locking in Samardzija everywhere. But I think it's a little bit different now.
Yeah, and that FanDuel price, he's within $500 of Stroman, Pomeranz, and Nola. And if you're going GPP options, I mean, I think all 3 of those guys are probably better options.
Yeah, we'll talk about Nola here. I mean, Nola's been one of the best pitchers in baseball over the last few months, and home matchup against the Braves. I know the Braves aren't a necessarily ideal matchup given the fact that they do have some lefties. They don't strike out a ton. I do wish Nola was cheaper on DraftKings, but I do like his FanDuel price actually quite a bit.
Yeah, what is it, 8,600? Is that right? 84, somewhere in there? 86, yeah. And I mean, I think he's going to have crazy low ownership tonight because, like you said, and most people know, Braves don't strike out a lot. And Nola has struggled his last couple starts against, what was it, the Marlins and the Giants, I think it was. But either way, I'm not really concerned about those 2 games. I mean, last time out, gave up 7 earned to Miami. Still had 7 strikeouts, though. The strikeout upside is there. And even in this matchup with the Braves. So before those 2, I think he had, 9 quality starts in a row. So I think nobody's really going to be on him tonight because of the matchup and those 2 games. But I don't think it's necessarily a reason for concern. I still think he's got a decent amount of upside here. And he's got to be, with that many top pitchers on there and a decent pitcher facing San Diego, what are those guys going to take up? You figure Kluber, Scherzer, Severino, and Samardzija are going to take up 70-75% of the ownership. So there's not going to be much left for guys like him.
No, there's not. I mean, really, after these 4 guys, we start to kind of drift into sub 5%, sub 10% type guys in terms of ownership.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, Nola, probably the most talented of these pitchers, is going to be super low owned, and I'm definitely on him tonight.
Yeah. What do you think of Severino? I mean, he's lost in this slate. It's not, obviously the most ideal matchup to kind of Cleveland, but Cleveland does kind of struggle away from home, and they've been striking out at a decent rate over the last 30 days. I think if you're building multiple lives, I don't think Severino's a bad, really contrarian option because, obviously he had the one blow up against Boston, but outside of that, I mean, this dude's been really strong.
He's been unbelievable outside of that one. I mean, outside of that one game, he's given up 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, and 1 earned runs in his last 8 starts. And I mean, aside from that one game, I mean, he's pitched into the 7th inning and all but 1 start. So he's just been crazy consistent, that one blip on the radar, like you said. But outside of that, he hasn't given up more than 4 earned runs 2 other times this entire season. So Cleveland's that team that they generally don't strike out a lot, but we have seen them, Drew Pomeranz got him 9 times the other day. Severino misses more bats than he does. So I think he's a really good high upside option that, opposite Kluber, despite his recent form, I think he's going to be lower owned than he should be.
Yeah, I mean, look at Severino. You take Heaney out of the qualified starters, but Severino's right behind Kluber and Scherzer. There's a big drop off. There's like a 3% drop off, but he's 3rd on the slate in swinging strike rate, and 28.4% strikeout rate this year. Indians over the last 30 days, 18th in WOBA, 21.4% strikeout rate. In that back half of that lineup, I mean, Carlos Santana, Jay Bruce, Diaz, Zimmer, Gomes. I mean, there's definitely some strikeouts there.
Yeah, and I mean, really, the only pitcher they've hit hard recently has been Chris Sale. Outside of that, I mean, they've been okay, but they haven't really just jumped on. Oh no, whoever it was on that day game, yesterday or the day before?
Oh yeah, they crushed him
pummeled him, but he didn't belong in the major leagues anyway. That was spot start, if I'm not mistaken. I don't even remember the guy's name. Either way, but yeah, I mean, you can't argue with the results there. I mean, he's just been absolutely tremendous. So I think he's a really good option. Honestly, really contrarian option. You go Kluber and Severino. Hope this is like a 1-0 type of game. And, I mean, that might be a nice little duo for you there.
Yeah, definitely. And, after that, you mentioned Pomeranz and Marcus Stroman. This game, it's kind of one of those ones where I don't really like any piece of it. Like, I don't really like the hitters. I don't really like the pitching options all that much. Pomeranz is interesting because obviously he's going to face – I mean, I guess, guys like Smoke, Donaldson, Pierce, that scares me a little bit. But outside of that, there's not much.
No, not really. And, Pomeranz is one of those guys that even in tough matchups, like you said, against the Indians, he was good, 9 strikeouts. He hasn't had a blow-up start in really all season. I mean, against Detroit one time and Milwaukee one time. Outside of that, I mean, looking at FanDuel points, we're talking 20s, 30s plus in just about every single start. So he's one of those guys who's just been quietly pretty consistent. And that whole, Blue Jays are great against lefties thing is that ship has kind of sailed in the past year or so. So this is still, I'd say an average offense, I guess, with Donaldson and Smoke hitting the way they are, but that's it. They're not a great offense by any means.
No, they're not. And yeah, Pomeranz has been one of those guys that, the upside's been a little bit capped just because he doesn't pitch deep into games. I mean, you really do have to hope the strikeouts are there. Blue Jays pretty much an average strikeout rate against lefties. I don't mind him as a tournament option. For me, it's going to be about what gets me the extra few bats. I think on tonight's slate, and if I don't think like Samardzija or Pomeranz are going to have a crazy high upside game, I might take a couple shots on maybe guys like Montgomery or Williams or Heaney, at basically 3 to 4K less.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go here because, these guys aren't without risk even in that middle tier. So, I mean, you got to find your spot there. But like you mentioned, you got guys like Zimmerman. I mean, Zimmerman's less expensive than 6 hitters on tonight's slate. And one of them, 2 of them, 1, 2, 3 of them are not even in Coors Field. So that's how bad Jordan Zimmerman has been this season.
Yeah, and like I just look at that Colorado game. Like I definitely want some pieces of Colorado tonight. I think that Baltimore-Seattle game is going to be extremely high scoring. I like there. So I think there's definitely offense to be had here, and there are cheap value offenses too. Like both the Rays and the Royals are cheap. The Phillies are cheap. So I mean, you can play those cheap offenses and kind of skip out if you are paying it for pitching.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you maybe pick your top 2 pieces and fit everybody else in because there's really no slam dunk option as far as cheap pitchers. But who are you taking though? You got to have one cheap guy, like say FanDuel wise sub 7K.
Sub 7K. Hold on, let me go here. For me, man, I think I like Heaney a lot.
Okay.
I just look at, obviously his, anytime a pitcher's giving up 7 home runs in 2 starts, you're concerned. But against Texas, against Baltimore, obviously there's some issues. He did have 9 strikeouts, though. I mean, his swinging strike rate over those 2 starts, 12.5%. Obviously, regression is coming, or positive regression is coming, given the fact that he's allowed 7 home runs, 3.66 xFIP, and he needs a talented arm. I mean, hasn't stayed healthy. Big ballpark there. Gets an athletics team that just really does struggle against lefties. I mean, outside of Ryan Healy, this team's dreadful, and the strikeout rate's always going to be there.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely, because that's another one of those teams that much like the Padres, you kind of just have that little built-in strikeout upside. I mean, they have some power. You get these random huge Chad Pender games, and Simeon hits well sometimes, but they're definitely an offense that just disappears sometimes. So I can definitely get behind that.
Yeah, I mean, this wouldn't be the first time they've been burned by an Angels lefty over the last few days, given the fact that I played Skaggs the other night against Texas. But I don't mind going back. I mean, given the fact that, 6K on FanDuel, you can stack whatever batter you get. On DraftKings, I mean, 5,100 is an SP2. Pair him with Kluber, I mean, that's only, 18-2 in terms of total salary. I think that's not too bad for, a pretty good strikeout floor. And the fact that, Kluber goes off and Heaney puts up an average start or so, and you get the right bats in there, Heaney's 11 points on DK. Let's say he just kind of has a meh outing. You're not going to be, out of it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I can stomach that. I don't like most of these options, but I can definitely stomach that one.
Yeah, because Ian Candy, I think, pops up on the radar for some people. That's another one I can see it. I can see the upside there, which just giving the Rays strike out a ton, but I could also see Candy just blowing up and giving up a ton of homers to those lefties.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. I mean, I could see 5 homers in that one. That's not pretty.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. Yeah, the cheap options, I mean, Heaney, you mentioned Trevor Williams before the show, who's actually been kind of quietly good. I mean, outside of the start against the Cardinals, he's, pitched relatively deep into games and, been pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't been bad. I mean, if you're looking at his games against the Cubs, he has been pretty terrible in those games. I think he's faced them 3 times so far, and he's given up, 8 runs in 13 innings, so not particularly good there. But, I mean, he's been decent. His strikeouts, he's been pitched, 7 and 8 innings in 2 of his last 4 starts. Obviously got crushed by St. Louis, but outside of that, I mean, 3 earned runs or less in 5 of his last 6 starts. So it's an okay option, not one without risk. I haven't really seen the wind situation there, so I don't think there's wind concern at Wrigley tonight.
Yeah,
so that's not bad. But, outside of that, I mean, Jose Urena doesn't pitch deep into games, but he's been decent. That Washington lineup is garbage right now. He's opposing Scherzer, so I mean, you're talking 2% ownership, but no upside with him. He's not a strikeout guy. So the one guy I wish had a better matchup, Daniel Gossett. He's had 13% swinging strike rate over the last month. Looking at his other numbers, only a 66% left on base percentage, 313 BABIP, so those numbers could regress in a positive way. XFIP under 4. It's a situation against a team that doesn't strike out much, but I still think he could have a decent floor in this one. So I guess that's the one other guy I'd consider here.
Yeah, I don't mind him. And if the Giants struck out more, I think Chacin would be an interesting play, but Giants just don't strike out. And Chacin, at home, obviously he's a totally different pitcher, but he's pitched well against the Giants before. I mean, you're probably looking at about 15 to 18 DK points out of him, which is the only place that I'd use him. You can definitely do much worse than him tonight.
I agree, for sure.
So, yeah, outside of those guys, I'm with you. I mean, I think Kluber comes in for the top option for me, and then I'll probably be taking some shots with Heaney, and God help me.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go down with that ship with you. I'll take some shots. I mean, that his ability to miss bats has been good. The hard contact's a concern, but you got to take your shots here.
Yeah. If I can get Blackman against Jordan Zimmerman, I don't care.
Click in Blackman, see what's left.
Yeah.
So. And Mark Reynolds. Mark Reynolds is going to hit 2 dingers, too.
2 dingers, calling your shot. I like it. So, yeah. Anyone else you want to talk about? I feel like.
No, I'd really rather not.
You don't want to talk about Marco Gonzalez and Chris Tillman?
Yeah. You play them. I won't. And I'll play every hitter against them.
Yeah. So that's going to wrap it up for us. You can head over to DaveFantasyCafe.com, check out great tools and content.